All right, so I had done a review video on 3 different pads that I had tried out when I was just looking before I ordered a new set. It was the Warrior RGT, and that was the full set with the glove and blocker. It was the Brian's Heritage pad, and it was the Bauer 1S pad. So after reviewing that, I decided to just stick with Vaughn because none of them beat out Vaughn for me. But at the same time, I had seen for sale a pair of these CCM Premier pads, the Premier ones. They've already gone on to release the Premier 2, so these are the older model now. But somebody was selling them for pretty cheap, and I figured why not, even though I already have another set on order, and there's no way I'm going to change it at this point, but I was just kind of out of curiosity, I wanted to give it a try. So I figured I'd just do a little review for whoever might still be interested, because even though these are the older model now, you know, there's still people buying them used, and you know, they're still being used a lot. So I'm just gonna come out and say that I hate these pads more than any other pad I think I've ever tried. If you watch my other video when I reviewed those 3 different pads, I said I hated, maybe not hate, but the one I liked the least was the Brian's Heritage. This is, for me, these pads are worse than that. Like, I could at least, if I was forced to use the Heritage pads, I wouldn't love it, but I could still use them. These, I can't even see myself being able to use them for some prolonged period. You know, like I used them just to demo them, and I hated it. It's almost like they made a pad that had everything I didn't like or wasn't looking for in a pad. And now I'm gonna say what I kind of said in the other video when I was saying things I didn't like. It's not that it's a bad pad, it's more the things I don't like, it's not for my preference, it's not something I look for in a pad. So it's not that the pad itself is defective, that they made a terrible pad. It's more that just for me, my purposes, it's bad. So when I say bad, I hate it, it's not that it's not really talking about the quality necessarily of the pad or whatever, how it's made, how it holds up, how it performs. It's more, it's how it performs, how it feels to me. So yeah, getting back to what I was saying, I really dislike this pad. It's, for one thing, it's heavy. Like, Vaughn kind of gets a bad rap for being on the heavier side, especially now with, you know, Bauer's 1S pads and Warrior's pads are so light. Brian's now is making really light pads. So Vaughn gets a bad rap about being pretty heavy, but these are heavier than Vaughn. Definitely, I could tell heavier than Vaughn. These were felt like wearing a brick on my legs. So not only is it heavy, but it's chunky and really stiff. So like the Vaughns too aren't that thin, but they're very flexible, and even the padding is more of the softer padding. So it has more give to it, even though it's not, you know, as thin as like a Warrior or as thin as the 1S. These are chunky and super stiff, so like they don't move. It's really, like I said, it's like having a brick on your leg. It's just so thick, and it just, to me, it feels like it was interfering with my legs and how I like to play, because I like to play a very active athletic style, more hybrid than just current like robo butterfly style. So I just really had a hard time trying to move around in these pads. And let me just put them up here so you guys can see. I don't know if you can really appreciate like how, what I'm talking about with the thickness and the chunkiness of it on the video, but compared to most other pads that are out now, these are thicker than a lot of them and heavier. I would say they'd probably be the heaviest pad on the market, or at least when they were out. Like I said, now it's the P2s are out, Premier 2s are out. I'm not sure if they've lightened them up a little bit. I haven't had a chance to really have them in my hands or look at them or anything, so I couldn't speak on the P2s, but these are really heavy. And like I said, super stiff, especially at the boot. This boot does not, this is the stiffest boot I have ever seen in person, held in my hands. I cannot bend it at all. Even if you put it on the ground and you put your weight on it, the thigh rise will kind of bend in. The boot does not move. It is set. It's not gonna break in. I mean, I bought these used, and I mean, you know, there's a decent amount of wear on. They're still usable, but that boot is really stiff, and that's a pretty big issue for me. I really traditionally have always had a very soft boot, to the point that it's like, you know, an L where the pad comes down and the boot goes straight out. This is very steep, a very steep boot and very stiff. So that's another point with these is if you're coming from another brand, especially Vaughn, probably Brian's too, you're probably gonna have to go down a size. So like in Vaughn, I wear 34+2. The Bryans I try were 34.1. The Bowers I tried were medium, which is equal to a 34.1. The Warriors were 34 plus 1.5. These are 33+2, and they fit about the same size as the other pads, mainly because of how steep the boot is. They play higher, even though they're a smaller size pad. So if you are looking to switch to CCM, specifically the Premier Series, I don't know how much it is an issue with the E-Flex series, but with the Premier Series, you're definitely gonna have to go down a size. I mean, some people really like that stiff boot, obviously. I mean, this is designed for a certain type of goalie. For me, I really don't. I mean, and that's something I knew when I bought it. Like, I knew these had a stiff boot. I wasn't expecting it to be quite as stiff as it is. But like I said, I just figured I'd try it. You know, I really didn't have much expectation about that I was gonna fall in love with it and really want to switch to it or anything. But I also didn't quite think it was gonna be as bad as it was to play with. Something else that I'm kind of not sure, be interested to talk to whoever, well, I guess it's Lefebvre that designs it. But I'm not sure why they're still going with this rounded inner edge here. If you look at just about any other pad out there now, it's a flat edge. Like even the Vaughns, which again, another knock people say on Vaughn is, oh, they're an old style pad. They never innovate, they never change. But I mean, my V7s have a flat, you know, landing side here. These things have this rounded edge to them there. And it's not, I mean, it's not that it didn't seal the ice or, you know, but I just, to me, a flat side to that part of the pad would be better, right? I mean, seals the ice better. This seems like there's a little more room for error with these. I mean, I didn't necessarily experience that, but it's just something that I just kind of don't understand why and maybe they do have an explanation, some design explanation for it. I've never quite heard what that is. And like I said, I can't think off the top of my head of another pad that still uses a rounded landing edge like that there. Maybe it's, like I said, it's just something I'm kind of making up, and it's not, would never become a problem. It's just something that's a little curious to me. I mean, it's probably the least of my issues with this pad. If that was it wouldn't be a problem. I might not even mention it, but it's just something else that I found kind of odd about the pad. So like my main issue with it, like I said, it's stiff, it's heavy. Man, it just felt so hard to play in these pads. Like, I've talked about it in the other review video on some of the pads where I said how, because of the way it's strapped, that it felt like it was restrictive on my leg and I was kind of fighting it. But this is just like a whole other level wearing these pads. I was really fighting it. I felt like I had to do double work to play in this pad. Like, I got tired a lot easier playing in these pads than with definitely with my Vaughns. Like those feel effortless. And even with some of the other pads I tried, like anytime I try to extend my leg, or even just like if I'm relaxed and the play is not in my end and I just want to stand up straight, like I can't even stand up straight in this. Because here's the thing with this. So like I said, it's super stiff, right? And it's got the single brake. So, I mean, there's some flex in that brake, as you can see. But up here, and it has this pre-curved design, that doesn't flex at all. And so they do the pre-curved design because they figure, okay, it's stiff, but we still want to give goalies that S shape, you know. And that's fine when you go down in your butterfly and you're in specifically that, or you're in a crouch and you have that contour to your, where your knee bends and it, you know, can contour up into your thigh. But if you, anything where your leg tries to be straight, like I said, and try to extend your leg for a save, or you want to try to stand up tall, you know, either to relax or to look over somebody to try to see the puck, this really gets in your way because it doesn't give, it doesn't straighten out, you know, like, I mean, I'm not a fan of straight pads in general, but at least with like the Bauer 1S, for instance, or I was gonna say, I should say, I'm not a fan of stiff pads in general, but at least with the Bauer 1S, for instance, they're straight. So, okay, they're stiff and they're straight, so when you go down in your butterfly, it's not, unless you really have a wide flare, it's might not cover your 5-hole that well, and you're gonna have to just use your knees, knee pads, whatever, to cover that or make the save. But at least it doesn't feel restrictive, because when you try to extend your leg with a pad like that, it's already straight, so there's nothing interfering with your leg. Whereas with something like this, since it's so stiff, it's like stuck in this S shape, right? So, like I said, when you're in a crouch, when you're in a butterfly and your leg is bent to fit this shape, it's fine. As soon as you try to extend, what your thigh is gonna do is hit this, and it's giving you resistance because it's so damn stiff. So it's giving you resistance, and then you've got the straps down here pulling one way, so you got your calf kind of pulling this way, and your thighs pushing this way, and it just feels really uncomfortable. I mean, you know, I guess you could really play around with the strapping, but I felt like I strapped it pretty loose. Like, I wouldn't want to strap it much looser than that, because then it would just be hanging off my leg and going all over the place. So, I mean, I did kind of adjust the strapping to loosen it up a bit, but it was still an issue, because like I said, it's just with the way this pre-curved shape of it is and how stiff it is, I just feel like it's not a good combination to have a pad that's that stiff and have that pre-curved design. You know, maybe again, because it's my style, that it just doesn't gel with, and somebody who's just super butterfly, like, I don't know, always, I mean, another thing is I have bad hips, so I don't have a very wide butterfly. I mean, I still do the butterfly save and that kind of stuff, but I do kind of have to, partly I have to, partly I want to play a more hybrid style, and I do other kind of movements, not just butterfly and whatever, and the same thing all the time. So maybe like somebody with healthy hips with a wide butterfly, you know, that plays a super modern style, maybe it would work out better for them. To me though, I still feel like it would just be uncomfortable for anybody, like I said, because you're always going to have a time where you're trying to extend your leg and doing things like that, like no matter how you play. And I feel like that is going to be an issue no matter what. You know, and especially you see a guy like Marc-Andre Fleury, who's super athletic goalie. I mean, he's all over the place. You know, he's been using, back from when they were Reebok now to CCM, took him over and started with the Premier 1 and now 2 lines. I mean, I know the Premier 2 that he currently uses, they've made some changes to it, but I mean, he was in the Premier 1s. You know, pros always can get custom stuff done, so maybe he had modifications done to, I don't know, soften the boot, or make the thigh rise a little more flexible. I have no idea, but I just can't see how someone who plays a style like he does would want to use a pad like this. It seems counterintuitive, like it's going against what you want to do. So yeah, it was super uncomfortable to play in these. That being said, I actually didn't play bad in them, at least at first, before I got completely worn out. But like at first I was actually making saves, and I will say, because of how stiff and hard these are, they really kick out the rebounds a lot. It's not something I worry about, something I really require in a pad, because I'm used to my bonds, which are soft and they kind of more deaden the rebounds. I'm not really particular either way. Like there's a benefit either way. Like there's a reason why there's still pads being made both ways. I mean, there's pros and cons to both. Kicking out the rebound, you know, gets it out from immediate danger, but you still don't know necessarily where it's going to go to, and you're still now not being able to cover the rebound and have to worry about what's happening after the shot. Whereas a pad that deadens the rebound, you have a better chance of maybe covering it in front of you, but at the same time, depending on exactly where it goes, you're leaving it possibly in a high danger zone where you can't get to it and you're giving up a good second chance. So I don't know, to me, I really don't think that one is so much better than the other. So I really don't care whether my pads kill the rebounds or shoot them out, but some people do. So I will say though, I did notice a lot with these, that these really kicked the rebounds out, like they were just flying off these pads. And so, you know, I was playing good for a while. It just felt really uncomfortable, especially like I said, my hips aren't that bad, and it just felt like it was putting a lot of pressure and like torque on my knees, on my hips and my knees using these pads. So then, like I said, I felt like I was doing double work with it, and I got tired. The session I played in was hour and 45 minutes. I'd say 45 minutes. Usually, and this is a session I've gone to a bunch of times before, and I get tired eventually, but I can play the whole session, no problem. I was pretty dead after about 45 minutes. Granted, we had less guys this time. We were playing, it was like a 2-on-2, 3-on-2 kind of thing, because we had less guys, so there was a lot of stuff going on. But even so, I definitely felt like it was the pads and what I had to do to play in them that were tiring me out more, and putting more wear and tear on my hip and my knee. So then once, I hit that wall, man, I really felt like I couldn't play in these pads, and they basically almost scoring on every shot at me because I was just dead and I couldn't move. That was like another thing too, where I noticed not so much at first when I had more energy and I could kind of fight against the pad more, but as I was playing more and more, like once I'd go down, I had a lot of problems trying to recover. Like I would go down and it'd be like, okay, wherever I went down, I'm there, man. I'm not moving from here, because it just felt so bad to move, and like felt like I had to do so much work to move that, and I was so tired. I was like, whatever. So, that's just my experience with these pads. Like I said, I feel like, as with some other kind of negative things I said about other pads, it's not so much that the pad itself is just such a horrible pad. It's just definitely doesn't fit my style whatsoever. Out of any pad I've tried recently, this is like the least of my style pad. That being said, this might be exactly what somebody else is looking for, that just loves a stiff pad, kick out the rebound, loves a stiff boot. There's definitely guys out there that's what they're looking for. So if so, then this pad might be for you. One thing, I'll just try to say a few positives. I do like the leg channel on it, because I like an open leg channel, and it's pretty open. It's not, for instance, like the Warrior leg channel is very closed, very, completely surrounds your leg, and it feels kind of restrictive in that way. Whereas, the restrictiveness in this pad came more in the stiffness of the pad itself and the thigh rise, but like when you put it on and the leg channel itself was, nice and loose and open. So that wasn't a problem at all. That is something I do like in my pads. Like I said, they, if you like your pad to kick out the rebound, they'll definitely do that. They're very hard. The sliding was on par with most other pads. It didn't stand out to me as being so much better or so much worse necessarily. So the sliding is fine. I do kind of like the landing part where your calf is, and because I had back when Reebok made their first premieres what was it now, like 05? I actually got a pair of those back then, just because I was like, it was a pretty revolutionary kind of pad then when they came out with this boxy, stiff pad, no knee rolls, whatever. So I was just like really curious, and I actually bought the first Reebok pads they came out with. And they've definitely changed over the years. Some people say, oh, they haven't changed. No, they've changed. But there is still sort of an overall style that they have kept. And part of that is, I feel like it's this calf landing that it's almost like it sticks out, I would say, further than some other pads. Like some other pads just have a very thin piece here, and this has a kind of a thicker, hard pad that sticks out here. So that combined with, you know, these pads aren't really meant to be super tight on you. It kind of, when it's facing the shooter, you know, it kind of hangs out a little bit, and it'll give you just that little extra coverage. You know, it's not not a game changer. It's not, you know, that's not something you're really going to be relying on to be making saves. But it's just a little extra something, you know, especially along the ice where maybe you didn't go down on the ice quite in time. This thing might catch a puck underneath it, whereas another pad that doesn't have that, maybe the puck would have gone in on you. You know, this is not something, like I said, it's going to be a big difference in goals against or anything like that. It's, you know, something that might stop one more goal out of 50 or something. You know, it's a very minor thing, but you know, I guess anything helps, and it's definitely a positive pad. It's something I do like about the pad. I mean, if they're, for instance, like with the new P2s, they seem to be like a more flexible pad, just from what I've seen like online and videos and whatever. I mean, the boot definitely seems more flexible, and it just seems like a thinner, more flexible pad overall. So like, if you keep this leg channel and the calf wrap and the knee landing, this whole area is fine. That combined with a softer pad would probably be something I'd be more interested in. As of right now, I mean, I don't have any plans to try P2s. I mean, they just came out, so it's not like people are really selling them cheap or anything right now that I would want to buy just to try it out. But yeah, so that's pretty much all my thoughts on the CCM Premier 1 pads. You know, I feel kind of bad because I feel like I'm shitting all over it. But like I said, I just want to say again that it's more just that it's just really not for me, and not that it's a bad pad. Like, you know, the craftsmanship on it, whatever, doesn't seem bad. You know, it's a well-made pad. It's just definitely not made for a goalie like me. And so somebody watching this, maybe if you're someone like me, it'll save you from buying these pads. Maybe if this sounds exactly like was something up your alley, then it'll make you want to buy the pads. Either way, I hope you guys got something out of this, and I'll see you next time.